Hey guys, Jackson here with another review cap for episode 8 of The Last of Us. Just quickly before we get into this video, I apologise to anyone that was waiting on my review for episodes 6 and 7, but sadly I wasn't very well and I've made the decision not to make those videos. Both episodes were very good as always, and I would have scored them both a 9 out of 10. Back to this video, and if you haven't watched episode 8 yet, this is your spoiler warning. Episode 8 begins with a man called David, a leader and pastor of a small community based in East Colorado's Silver Lake Resort. Deep winter is here and the people of Silver Lake Resort are starving and mourning the death of a hunter and father called Alec. The daughter of Alec wants to bury her father, but David says this isn't possible as the ground is frozen. But we'll find out later the real sinister reason why he won't bury him. We meet David's right hand man, a chap called James, played by the excellent Troy Baker, the voice of Joel in the video game, and they discuss how much food they have left for the folk, and unfortunately for them it's 1 to 2 weeks tops if they continue rationing. James notifies David that a couple of the guys think they saw some deer recently, and David tells James to round the boys up for a hunting trip. The episode jumps to Ellie and Joel, with Ellie trying her best to look after Joel and stop him from dying. Joel's still heavily wounded and fighting an infection. Rations are also low for them and Ellie heads off to hunt as well. Ellie takes Joel's rifle and spots a white rabbit. Unlike in the game, this rabbit miraculously survives and leads Ellie towards a deer. Ellie takes the shot which mortally wounds the deer, but it manages to leave the area before succumbing to its wounds. Ellie chases after her prize and comes face to face with David and Buddy Boy, aka James. The exchange here is almost textbook from the game, and in the end, Ellie makes a deal to trade some of the deer for medicine. David agrees and James sets off to town to get 2 bottles of penicillin and a syringe. David convinces Ellie to take the deer to a nearby cabin and to set up a fire and shelter, until James returns from his 4-mile round trip. They get talking and James tries to convince Ellie to join his community, explaining he was chosen to lead the community and that he was a teacher turned preacher. The conversation starts to turn sour when David talks about everything happening for a reason, and tells Ellie that 4 of his men were sent to the nearby town on a scavenging hunt, but only 3 returned, as 1 was killed by a man, accompanied by a girl, and that man was a father, the same father the community were mourning at the start of this episode. Ellie realises she's in trouble and James is back pointing a gun at her from the side. David tells him to lower the gun and to give her the medicine as planned. James is reluctant but ends up following orders and Ellie makes a run for it through the woods and back to the house where Joel is. Ellie, who is clearly shook, injects Joel with the penicillin and goes to sleep by his side. We cut back to Silver Lake Resort where the cooks are preparing a lovely stew for the people. The woman asks what meat it is and the man says, venison. Sadly for her, it's very much likely her dead husband. David walks in with the fresh deer and notifies the townfolk that the rumours are true, that they have found the girl who was with the man who killed Alec. The daughter of Alec wants revenge for her father's death and David slaps her for speaking out of line, before creepily telling her she'll always have a daddy. The next day Ellie gives Joel another shot of penicillin before heading upstairs to tend to her horse. Ellie hears noises and spots David and the boys in the village area looking for them. Ellie runs back inside, gives a semi-conscious Joel a knife and tells him to kill anyone that comes into the room. Ellie takes her horse and heads away from the house, trying to get them to follow her away from Joel, before her horse is shot by James and she is captured. As Ellie gets taken back to Silver Lake Resort by David, a couple of guys including James drag the dead horse back and the remaining 3 stay to hunt for Joel. One man enters the house Joel was hiding in and realises there is a hidden basement. As the man moves the bookshelf, we see Joel is coming around and hides. Joel takes out the man with a well-placed knife attack, but is clearly still not 100% from his own injuries. Joel then manages to knock out and capture the other 2 men looking for him. Joel interrogates one of them and finds out Ellie is still alive and has been taken to Silver Lake Resort. The man gives up the position on the map before Joel kills both of them despite their pleas. Joel grabs his gear and heads off to find Ellie. Ellie meanwhile is locked inside a cage in the kitchen area by David. Ellie realises David is a cannibal when he offers her food and she sees a human ear on the floor. David indeed confesses that he is a cannibal, but only a handful of the townsfolk know the truth about what they're really eating. David tries to explain that this is a last resort to stop his followers from starving, as the food has been sparse for months. David tries to convince Ellie to join him and whispers sweet nothings to her, saying she's a natural leader and not a sheep, like the rest of the folk. David then gets creepy with Ellie and tells her to join him. Ellie's having none of it though, and she breaks his finger and he tells her she's next to be chopped up into little pieces. David returns with James and they take her out of the cage when Ellie bites him in a frantic struggle. David and James put her on the meat table and David is about to kill her with his cleaver when Ellie tells him she is infected, and so is he now because she bit him. David humours her and checks her arm, whilst James remains shook from what he sees. With their guard down, Ellie takes out James with the cleaver to his shoulder, just like in the game, and she escapes into the restaurant area hiding for her life. Ellie picks up a log from the fire and throws it at David, but misses and the restaurant catches fire and starts to go up in flames. After some cat and mouse, Ellie stabs David in the leg and he drops his cleaver. David overpowers her to the floor and tells her he likes a fighter before he begins to start loosening his pants. Ellie desperately manages to get the cleaver and brutally kills him in hysterics. As she leaves the restaurant in a bloody mess, she is finally found by Joel, who comforts her in a touching scene, and they slowly walk away from Silver Lake City where the episode ends. Wow, what an episode and what a performance by both Bella Ramsey and newcomer David Shepard, who played the show's true monster David, a stark reminder that humans can be the biggest monsters of them all. Seeing Troy Baker, who voiced Joel in the game, play James was a welcome treat for game fans, and the show stayed largely faithful to its counterpart, minus the lack of infected during the cabin scene, which is a bit disappointing personally. Shout out to the White Rabbit though, who survived in the show. The snowy shots and set location was stunning and really helped ground the narrative to how sparse food is and dire the situation has become for David's community living in Colorado, as well as Ellie doing everything she can to keep both Joel and herself alive in the deep winter. My only gripe with the episode is how quickly Joel recovers from the penicillin, and in less than 24 hours he's back on his feet and able to put up a fight. I am willing to suspend some disbelief on this though, as you could possibly argue that he was also fueled with adrenaline from his fight or flight response to stay alive and protect Ellie. Episode 8, like the majority of all the episodes thus far, continues to be of the highest quality, and I'm not sure I'm emotionally ready for the finale next week. Final score, an excellent 9.5 out of 10. Let me know in the comments below what you thought about the episode, and the show as a whole. Is there anything that has disappointed you throughout? And are you pumped for the finale? If you're new here then please consider subscribing to my channel for regular TV, film and gaming content, including live streams. We're currently on the road to 100 subs, and thank you to anyone that has already subscribed. It means the absolute world to me and we're only just getting started. And as always, I hope to see you next time.